ruling in the Brady suit by September 4th or issue an order allowing Brady to play pending the resolution of the case. I'm Deb Carson.
My dad said to me, I knew if I wanted to get out there in the world and make a difference in the world of human rights and international law, first I had to be in the frame of mind where I finished things, where I accomplished things, where I got things done, and going into business is a surefire way of doing that. And ultimately, what my dad does now is he teaches young lawyers that work for him how to affect change and how to fight slow-moving government bureaucracy. It's pretty good stuff, and that's why my dad chooses to live in Kosovo. He loves being out there, and he loves the work that he's able to do. He also went on to explain to me something that I knew, but he reaffirmed it to me, and which is this. In government, you can hold on to your job, waste the time and the money of citizens of the country you're in. And essentially, if you're in government, you can get a free ride by kissing the right ass and having yours kissed and taking as long as humanly possible to accomplish absolutely nothing at all. So, for the old man, it was important for him to hit the ground running and do something that involved getting tangible results and not endlessly pretending to pontificate while the fate of millions hangs in the balance. And that is where we're at with healthcare.gov. The fate of millions hangs in the balance. For some like me, that fate is, well, it's a question of, how much a month is this going to cost me? Back to the dollar menu again. Hello, McDouble, my old friend. Do you still taste like failure and shame? Oh, good. Some things never change. But for some, it's a question of, will I be able to continue my chemotherapy with doctors that I've entrusted my life to? Or will the glitches and endless umming and ahhing and endless arguing and huge amounts of ineptitude perpetrated by the people whose salary I pay with my taxes ultimately cost me my life? Life is what you make it. It really is. I see so many people every single day. I talk to so many people every day that complain about the state of affairs. Obamanomics is killing me. Let's be real. There's lots of things about the Obama's administration that's not good. And you know what? The next guy or girl that gets in, there's going to be tons of stuff about them that's not good. Look to yourself. If you are looking to an elected official to make changes in your life, if you're thinking that who's in office is going to make you wake up and feel different, well, you're on a road to disappointmentville, my friend. Population you. When you get up in the morning, it doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter who your local, national, regional elected officials are. Ultimately, it's down to you.
This is the 80s Show on iHeartRadio. Let's start the show. Come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. Say ho, ho. Say ho, whoa, ho, whoa. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show. Let's start the show.
We are awash with special guest talent, sparkling wit, the ability to write books in the studio today. Funkhauser and I are intellectually dwarfed by not only Marie Lanza, who's been with us all week, but comedian Grace Fraga is in the studio with us today. How are you? How's everything going?
Good. How are you?
We're evened out today, AD.
Well, yeah. No, well, you know what? Then that being the case, let's throw out the script today and dispense with all the usual formalities and see if we can't ignite some battles of sexes by just going over a whole bunch of current events to finish out the week. But also talking about what's going on with Grace Fraga. New book. Like Marie and you both write books. I can barely read a book, yet you're cranking them out on a regular basis. How many are we up to? I was looking at your website, and you are like Marie, a prolific individual.
Yes, I am. Not with kids, but with books. Definitely prolific. I wrote 2 books called Love at First Ex. One is kind of like the parody about loving and managing your exes and using them as resources. And the other one is a serious book. After 2 breakups in 10 months, I was like, okay, it's either killing myself or writing a book. And writing a book it was.
You're still here, so
yes, yay,
yay! Not offing yourself, yay. And you've also been on NBC's The Art of Story. Wait, no. You've been on The Art of Storytelling on PBS. Are you one of those sort of like slam storytellers, like our friend Sam, who comes on the show every once in a while?
You know, I did a lot of storytelling when I was crafting my one-woman show. And I got a development deal from PBS with a partner that I was dating at the time. Whoops. He's half of the guilty party for me writing the second book. And and it's all good. And so storytelling, we were thinking is like the new stand-up comedy, because everybody's doing storytelling here in LA. So we shot the pilot, and 2 weeks before we aired it, the person that greenlit the show quit. So there is show business for you.
Real nice.
Oh, man.
Are you like a lot of stand-up comics? Like, I have a whole bunch of friends that are stand-up comics, and I have to admit, like, that ability to... When I was a kid, there was a talent show, and I could recite Sam Kinison and Eddie Murphy's albums back and forth, up and down in the 5th grade. And I was like, what if I just got up and did sort of like, a clean 5 minutes from the Kinison album or something like that? What if because like other people were going up and covering other people's songs, and as a 5th grader, I was like, I could just cover some Sam Kinison. That would be fine for the talent show. And my dad looked at me and he was like, yeah, but what if no one laughs? And I was like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be effing kidding me. And he encouraged me to do absolutely everything else. But when it came to stand-up comedy, he was like, what if no one laughs? And I feel like I missed out on something very important, which we'll get into directly after this.
That is shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Time won't stop, but I'll stop time to run.
iHeartRadio shines the spotlight on Genesis.
Members of the school band and the fledgling local rock band, the Anon, formed Genesis in 1967 at Charterhouse Public School, England. Keyboardist Tony Banks and bassist Mike Rutherford teamed up with Peter Gabriel on flute and vocals, Anthony Phillips on guitar, and Chris Stewart on drums. In 1968, they signed to Decca. They recorded their first 2 singles and the album From Genesis to Revelations. In 1970, the band came to the attention of Charisma, and with producer John Anthony, they began to work on Trespass, a cult success.
Stand up and fight, for you know we are right. We must strike at the lies that are spread like disease to all.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Genesis and all your favorite artists. And now, this week's Rock Almanac.
In 1981, Journey released their 7th album, Escape, and Stevie Nicks released her debut solo album, Belladonna. Heart's Nancy Wilson married writer-director Cameron Crowe in 1986. They were divorced in 2010. Bob Seger reached #1 on the singles chart this week in 1987, for the first and only time, with Shakedown, off the Beverly Hills Cop 2 soundtrack. 1994, David Gilmour married writer Polly Sampson in London. Jimi Hendrix's father, Al Hendrix, regained control of his son's name, likeness, image, and music this week in 1995. And finally, on July 31st, 2012, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band performed their longest concert to date in Helsinki, Finland, clocking in at 4 hours and 6 minutes. He knows he doesn't need to play everything, right?
That's your look back at this week's Rock Almanac.
Hey, you, what's that sound? Coming so loud from your radio dial. ADV getting down when you're rocking the jams. Here I am, going back once again.
So where can everyone be tweeted? Funkhauser at FunkFM, me at ADSXE, Marie Lanza, and Grace Fraga. Where can people hit you up on the interwebs if they want to join in the show today?
Marie_Lanza.
And Grace Fraga, Fraga.
Grace, your middle name's not underscore like everybody else?
No, did I do something wrong? Am I carbon dating myself or something? Is that like a millennial thing?
No.
Okay, good. All right, then I'm 29.
You know how,
okay.
you know how you're talking about the art of storytelling, this thing that you were involved in with PBS that sadly got waylaid at the last moment. Are you like a lot of stand-up comics who... Well, like I was saying before, the one thing that I was never encouraged to do by my parents was my parents were hippies. They were just like, let's not pay attention to the kid and just tell him he can do everything. It was a very encouraging yet very hands-off parenting experience. We're like, yeah, you're 5, you can take the bus. That won't be a problem. No, don't worry about it. No street lights and a mile-long walk to the bus stop. Fine, I believe in you. But the one thing that they told me that I was not capable of doing was getting up on stage and doing stand-up, which was weird because my mom was a musician. They bought me a drum kit when I was like 4 years old, and I'd been doing music for a while at that stage, and I was encouraged to get up on stage and make a fool of myself when it came to all things musical. But when it came to stand-up, my dad was like, yeah. Ooh, what if no one laughs? And so I never got up and did it. And I one of the biggest regrets of my life, not necessarily because I think I'm such a funny guy, but because that level of independence that you have when you make your living doing stand-up comedy, when you have a microphone and somebody that pays you afterwards, and you win or you lose on your own merits, and you don't have a boss, and you don't have someone to answer to, and you don't have a bass player you can turn around and blame it on. That is just like the ultimate to me. Like that. That to me is fantastic. I see people that can do that. I'm like, oh. Here I am coming into an office every single day like a chump, when if I just ignored my father in the 5th grade, I could be calling my own effing shots. So, but here's the thing. My point is, it takes a lot of chutzpah and cojones and whatever you have to defy your father's wishes and get on stage and do what it takes to make a living as a stand-up comic and do all of these things. With the onset of storytelling, with that becoming like this big thing, slam storytelling, things like The Moth and stuff like that really taking off, I found a lot of my stand-up comic buddies that are legit, that put in the time, put in the hard work, and can actually do this and pay all their bills by getting up on stage and being funny 3 or 4 nights a week. I find that most of them, they're like, yeah, storytelling. That's all my stand-up comic friends who couldn't be funny. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm no longer a comedian. I'm a storyteller. It just means I get up on stage for like 20 minutes at a time and nobody laughs, but I call it storytelling, therefore it's okay. And a lot of people see it as a cop-out. Have you noticed some unfunny stand-up comics be like, well, I'm more of a storyteller now?
Oh, well, I'm not going to comment on that, but I think you're right. Well, after doing stand-up, when you do storytelling, it's so much easier to get laughs with like really watered-down jokes. Stand-up is like, you have to like punch it up to levels of psychopathy, to be funny. You have to like really go there. But with storytelling, you can be a little bit mildly funny and you get big laughs and you're like, wow. Like all my bad jokes that I never used anymore, like when I first started, I put them in my storytelling stories, and people would think it was so clever and funny. And I was like, wow, I could like recycle all my old bad jokes and make a living at storytelling. So I can have 2 careers now. But no, to be honest, I really enjoy stand-up so much. There's nothing like stand-up. Even when you get heckled and almost killed, it's I don't know. It's just a rush. It's just so fun. And regarding your parents, let me tell you, I find that there's 2 types of stand-ups: the ones whose parents encourage them and they're awful, and the ones whose parents don't encourage them and they're great. So you probably would be a fantastic stand-up comic. You should give it a shot, I think.
So what you're telling me is if I had the gumption to stand up to my parents in the 5th grade, my life could have turned out, what's the expression? Oh, yeah, better. Thanks very much. Why don't you give me a nice big paper cut and pour lemon juice all over it while you're at it? Thank you so much for that.
Okay, I'll pay for your therapy. It's okay.
Oh, good. Because I have an invoice sitting on my table for a year's worth that I haven't
Not
paid
a
for
problem.
yet.
Get me a stand-up gig and I'll do it.
Really?
Yeah.
All the therapy paid for in one gig? You must have.
I don't know.
Well, you've got like all the followers on Twitter. That's very impressive. Perhaps I heard about this one. There's this one. This has nothing to do with anything. There's this band called Bring Me the Horizon.
Okay.
There's this, more than just a
I
clever
love
nickname. There's this band called Bring Me the Horizon that they're just starting to make some noise over here. I play them on the radio stations that I'm on here, but they're huge, I tell you, in England. And they wanted to finance their new album, so they did one show at Wembley Arena. They're like, well, it's going to cost this much for promotion, this much for that. Let's just do one show, knock it out. That'll be the budget. I was just like, that's crazy. So bravo to you for being well on the way to be able to pay for things like extensive regression therapy with a single stand-up game. All right, then. Shall we get into the news, Marie? You ready to rock?
Ready.
First and foremost, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks.
You're technically on vacation this week, right?
I am technically on vacation, and next week.
And next week.
And
Are you coming in next week to read the news?
I don't know. Maybe if you want me back.
Yes.
I haven't botched
let's
your
ask
news.
Twitter and see what happens.
I haven't botched your news too much this week.
How old is your kid?
She's 8 months tomorrow.
And you must be full of the joys of parenthood to get some time off and to be like, how can I find a new way to get out of the house?
She goes to school all day. So
wait, an 8-month-old kid goes to school?
It's like a little daycare preschool. So she's
cool.
getting involved early.
The smart ones start really early.
Yeah, I needed her to start early.
I really sort of like. I have no kids of my own, but I've given some thought to what it might be like if I do. And there's so much new. Maybe it's just new to me, but it feels like there's so much new evidence rolling around with regard to early child development and how much like pieces of stimulation, like maybe going to school at age 8 months, can really, really affect things in a positive way when it comes to the rest of your childhood development. Have you like?
I read like crazy.
Nothing to do with anything, but like since your kid has started in school, have you noticed sort of like, I mean, every day is probably a new journey at that age, but have you noticed a marked difference since she started getting the stimulation there? Sort of like being engaged in that way? She
started this it's like a little daycare and preschool because they teach them and they learn and things like that. I brought her there at 3 months old. And that was really tough, letting go of your 3-month-old. So, I mean, she's very she started being like a lot more alert and interactive than a little earlier than I read in the little, I get these weekly updates like your baby should be doing this now, and I'm like, my baby's already doing that like 2 weeks ago. So I'm kind of seeing that kind of thing, but then there's other things that I'm like, I got a normal kid. She's normal. Yeah. She's developing just fine, that kind of thing. But I am excited to see like what her reading skills will be like, her speech skills, because I have
3 months from now. Hello, mother.
Yeah, no, let's not. That would scare me. I'm not quite. I like the babble. I still like the babble. The babble's cute. I'm not ready for the back talk. But I'm excited to see if she gets the early development of speech skills, language skills, because they speak a different language there. And that kind of thing. So,
I say, Mother, could you address the odorous manifestation that seems to be emanating from my hindquarters? Thank you very much.
It's fun.
Well, I went to Montessori school when I was a kid, like when I was 2, and like I do remember not much.
Oh, so
but,
you
like,
went early too?
Yeah. I remember. And this is kind of why I think a lot of people sort of wait to get their kids into a learning environment. And I didn't go at 8 months. Well, maybe I did. I don't remember. But I know I was there when I was 2. And I remember part of what we had to do at Montessori school was we had to like, there was a circle with the name of a color written underneath it, and we had to color it in with the appropriate color. And I remember distinctly being like, orange, and going at it with my crayon. And I don't think every 2-year-old can read the word orange and associate it with the appropriately colored crayon.
And they can't.
Yeah, but they could if they were just given the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and that's what my whole thing is. I just want her to be engaged and stimulated all day long, interacting with other children, getting that schedule. I don't want her to ever fight me on the word going to school. I want her to be like, oh, I've been doing this since I can remember. This is a normal thing. Baby goes to school, mommy goes to work. It's a normal, it's a normal thing. So
apparently there's this whole thing, like there's this whole thing about like the importance of having dinner together as a family.
Yeah.
Not just because it's like, oh, it's good to, get that interpersonal time with you and your child and the family unit and blah, blah, blah. Apparently it has a lot to do with that idea of scheduling and sequence and being able to identify one event happened after another. I mean, that said, I've yet to meet a fully formed adult that doesn't know the difference between breakfast and lunch. But, it seems to help them get sort of very basic concepts cemented early. Anyways.
We eat dinner together at the table. It's a mandatory thing that we all sit down. Even if it's just me and the baby, we sit at the table. We have a breakfast table and we have a dinner table. And at night, we may not all see each other, for breakfast. And in the mornings, it's a little rushed. We don't see each other for lunch. But at night, we are sitting at that table, whether it's 2 of us or, 3 or 4 of us. We're sitting at that table together.
That's very cool. What's the child's name?
Lily.
Lily.
We look
forward to the next 4 or 5 years. At which point, Lily should be running a large chunk of the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah, I hope so. Next president
on her iPhone.
Next president at age 8.
Yeah, at age 8. Yeah, right. I'll send her. I'll hope for better things for her. I don't want her to have those struggles.
If you do wind up coming back next week, maybe we could do a lot more on parenthood, because I feel like we've barely scratched the surface. Shall we get on with the news now, though? Let's take a look at what's going on in the world.
Yeah. Now there's evidence of Hulk Hogan using gay slurs. First racial slurs. Now this.
Yeah. Well. Things continue to go from bad. He's affected. You know what's interesting? The whole Confederate flag being taken down thing. The one thing that I've heard over and over again, and you being from Louisiana might have heard some of this, is like they're erasing history. And we had a really thoughtful letter from a guy whose great something grandfather was in the Confederate Army back in the day and wasn't, not a slave owner, not involved in all this sort of stuff. And he's had his Confederate graveyard vandalized and all this sort of stuff. And, not good times. And the whole they're erasing history thing, I actually kind of get. I always like to play devil's advocate and try and understand something from someone else's perspective that's different from me. And the erasing of history thing with regard to the Confederate Army and the Civil War and the flag and all that sort of stuff, I can put myself in their shoes and understand. But because of that, the words erasing history have caught on like wildfire. And people are like, they're erasing Hulk Hogan from history because they took him off the WWE website. I understand, but I'm not for the erasing of history. I'm like, okay.
I'm a little over the whole they're erasing history, because it's not an accurate history anyway. And if people want to actually open up a history book and learn something, I'll be happy, and start erasing that history. Maybe I'll get a little upset. But until then, Hulk Hogan too. I don't know. Just suspend the guy for a while.
First racial slurs, now this. He's like a lion killing away from having the worst week in history of mankind. Go on.
Michael Jackson almost played Jar Jar Binks in The Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
Ew.
That's ignorant.
Would have made those scenes with a young Anakin Skywalker so much more touching.
Touching.
Yeah. Was Michael Jackson ever in any other movies? Like, was that a thing? Was he an actor?
Yeah, he did a couple of movies.
What was he in?
Probably playing himself.
No, Michael Jackson did. Okay, you want to guess?
Yeah, he was in The Wiz, like the all-black version of The Wizard of Oz. The breeze on down the road, which, weirdly enough, when you watch it today, has vaguely racist overtones.
USA Headline News. I'm I'm Kelly Sloan. The NAACP is hailing the decision to charge a white University of Cincinnati policeman, Ray Tensing, in the shooting death of Samuel Dubose after a traffic stop. Cincinnati Police Chief Jeffrey Blackwell says the video of the deadly traffic stops shows what he calls egregious missteps.
When we make mistakes, we have to be willing to call it like we see it.
Tensing's attorney says his client didn't intend to kill Dubose. A piece of aircraft was found on a remote Indian Ocean island yesterday, and officials think it may be part of the Malaysia airliner that disappeared 16 months ago. Independent aviation expert Philip Butterworth Hayes says the wreckage is being analyzed.
It's going to be pretty certain very, very quickly whether this came from the missing aircraft or not.
Experts say the strong currents of the ocean could have pushed debris from the plane several thousand miles from where it went down. This is USA Headline News.
Do you have federal student loans? Would you like to lower your student loan payments or possibly have a portion of your loans forgiven? If you owe $10,000 or more, you may qualify for the government's income-based program, which means you could pay as little as $5 per month. If you're behind, late, or even if you're in default on your federal student loans, we can help consolidate your student loans into one affordable monthly payment and cut your payments right away. Federal Student Loan Services provides student loan relief, getting you relief from your federal student loans fast. If you owe $10,000 or more on your student loan, call our established student aid toll-free assistance line right now at 800-669-0290. Once qualified, we can fix your student loan problems guaranteed, and there is no credit check. Call 800-669-0290, 800-669-0290 now. We've helped thousands of people just like you fix their student loans. Our specialists are waiting for your call. Call 800-669-0290. Again, 800-669-0290.
It's trending. Found the two top teams of the American League West, Astros and Angels going at it in Houston.
1-1. Ground ball softly hit left side. Diving Gillespie picks up the rolling baseball. Won't have a play anywhere. Conger scores. Marisnik to third. Infield RBI hit for Altuve. 2-1 Astros.
More than enough on the Astros radio network as they did beat the Halos 6-3. Albert Pujols did sock his 30th home run of the season in defeat. Meanwhile, the Rangers were looking to snap the Yankees' mini streak.
Swinging a line drive base hit right field. Beltran over to pick it up. Rounding third is Prince Fielder. He's in to score. Moving to third on the play is Beltre. It's an RBI single for Josh Hamilton, and the Rangers now lead 5-2.
On the Rangers radio network, they do beat the Yankees 5-2. New York has its 3-game winning streak snapped. Orioles are winners of 5 in a row. They blanked the Braves 2-0. Chicago White Sox, they won 7 straight. They beat Boston 9-2. I'm David Gascon.
iHeartRadio puts the spotlight on James Taylor.
Born in Boston in 1948, James Taylor began playing the cello as a child. He switched to guitar and started to think about being a musician full-time when he met guitarist Danny Korchmar. They formed a folk band called The Flying Machine. It started out well, but eventually James and Danny were overcome with addiction and they disbanded, leaving Taylor to move to London in a last-ditch attempt to break the habit. While there, he submitted a demo tape to Peter Asher, a scouting talent for the Beatles' new label, Apple. His first album, entitled simply James Taylor, was not a success, but it did get him noticed.
And ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind.
Taylor released his breakthrough album, Sweet Baby James, in 1970. It went triple platinum and spawned his first top 10 hit, the intensely personal Fire and Rain. The following year saw the release of another million-seller, Mudslide Slim and the Blue Horizon, with the #1 single, You've Got a Friend, written by his longtime friend, Carol Kane.
Just call up my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running. Oh, yes, I will see you again.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more James Taylor coming up.
Winter, spring, summer, or fall.
Ferry residents, Tooth speaking. Sorry, there's no credit fairy here. What's that? He magically raises your credit score? Yeah, there's no credit fairy. But you can improve your credit by paying bills on time and keeping your credit card balances low. Money under your pillow? Sorry, kids only.
There's no magic to improving your credit, but there is help, and it's free. Go to creditfairy.org. Brought to you by the Consumer Bankers Foundation, the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights Education Fund, and the Ad Council.
Go ahead.
Favorite the show and enjoy AD on the go. iHeartRadio presents AD.
We are joined in the studio today by comedian and author Grace Fraga and author and radio host Marie Lanza. And super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser, is here. You can tweet them all at FunkFM, at Marie_Lanza, and at Grace Fraga. And me at ADSXE if you want to join in. We've had such a backlog of news to get through this week. We're just going to roll through what remains of it. What is going on in the world, Marie?
Tom Cruise says a Top Gun sequel would be fun.
Everyone else from Tom Cruise says a Top Gun. Did I say everyone else from Tom Cruise? I did, didn't I? Stunning. Yeah. Waiting for the coffee to work. I think everyone else from Top Gun says it would be a much-needed paycheck. Are any of them doing anything at this stage in the game?
Talking about Top Gun, I guess.
Talking about Top Gun.
That's about it.
You think they'd have Val Kilmer volleyball shirtless again and do that thing where he gnashes his teeth threateningly?
Probably not. Maybe on the McHale's Navy reboot.
Oh God! If he was to play if he was to play volleyball, it'd be the first sporting eclipse ever. Like, it got so dark. What happened? Val Kilmer got in front of the sun while he's playing beach volleyball. No one can see anything. The plants won't grow. Go on.
Kris and Caitlyn Jenner got together and talked through some of their issues. I wish I could have been there.
Yeah. Issues like, well, for instance, Caitlyn finally admitted after all these years that she's the one who's been using all of Chris's moisturizer. You guys are, you girls rather, are in, I don't know about Grace's situation, but you have been in a cohabiting arrangement once or twice before, right? You've lived with a dude?
Oh, yeah.
And Marie, you live with your husband.
Yeah,
have you ever had? Have you
kind of live?
I guess.
Have you ever had them? Have you ever had them take your moisturizer or other beauty products?
My husband has never used moisturizer in his life. I actually have to put it on him while he sleeps, or when he's like a child. When I put sunscreen on him or moisturizer on to protect his skin, and while I'm doing it, I say, "Honey, I need you to live." Like, this is a sunscreen is so you live.
Men don't care.
He doesn't care.
Yeah,
he could care less.
The only one that took my moisturizer was the narcissistic actor I lived with for 3 years. That's about it, really. He wanted to look prettier than me. He didn't succeed.
Like, whenever I'm in a girl's shower and I see all this stuff, I'm just like, oh, it's kind of cool. And then, like, once or twice when I've tried it, I'm like, I smell nice. I should do this every single day. And then, absolutely forget to do it, like, ever again, ever. But I find it to be an interesting thing. A lot of dudes I know, have taken to using their live-in girlfriend or wives' beauty products. And they're just like, oh, man, it's awkward admitting at the drugstore that it might be for me. But I think guys get into it. There is one moisturizer that I used one time that it's like, it was a sunscreen because it was like a sunscreen moisturizing thing, I believe. Wow. Somebody else talk, for the love of God.
See, now you know how stand-up feels like.
Some sort of verbal agreement, some sort of approbation, that's not weird. Go on. Yes, continue with the story. But like, thanks.
You're welcome.
Honestly, some of that stuff, you put it on your face, it feels like your face feels like it's getting a drink. It feels like it's coming back to life. You know, like if I could remember to use that stuff on a regular basis, I would. Feels good. I know your husband's pain with sunscreen and stuff like that, though. I hate sunscreen. I hate putting it on. It feels greasy. Everything gets stuck in it. I think, especially, does he bitch mostly about putting it on his face?
He hates it on his face. But the thing is, he's bald. So, and when he goes, and he's a cyclist, so when he goes out for 8 hours a day on his bike and comes home like horribly burned on his neck and in his nose, I'm like, no. I remind him, I need you to live.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, baby, and I need you to live. We need, I'm not quite worried about him getting hit by cars. That's already happened. But, that whole cancer thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Totally. So, yeah. And it's real.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, no.
But like, okay, so is his bald head? Is it sort of one of those situations where he shaves it, or he shaves whatever's left of it?
He shaves what's left of it.
So no, but like I bring this up because I know why he hates it so much. Because I hate putting sunscreen on my face. I don't mind putting it on my forehead or my nose, but you put sunscreen on stubble, and it's just a recipe for feeling terrible.
Well,
it's awful.
But the thing is, you said the keyword, like you were saying, you don't like the oily, but I keep sunscreens that don't have like the oil feeling. They're cream.
It
so it's
still
so much
feels
better.
like crap on your face getting stuck in your stubble.
You're not helping my case.
Man, yeah, exactly.
And then if you shave and you're like, oh, if you're worried about the stubble, and then you shave and you put that stuff on, then it just like guys have different issues with that stuff. Like anytime you have hair growing out of your face, it changes your life. It really does.
Well,
Go on.
It doesn't bother me on my stubble. No, I'm kidding.
I was going to say, speaking of hair growing out of your face. Speaking of hair growing out of your face, isn't Kim Kardashian in the news?
She is. Kim Kardashian is said to be binge eating fast food during her pregnancy.
So I guess she's the Kardashian that's keeping up with Rob.
Yeah.
Anyone? You guys are all Hollywood types. Anyone know what happened there? Because I remember watching. I think I watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians once, where I was like, I like big butts. I cannot lie. I'm an honest person. I'll give this a go. And the episode I watched was the younger brother Rob Kardashian. He's like, well, I've just signed a contract with elite models and I'm dating a cheetah girl, so life is pretty effing awesome. And then the next time I saw him, he was Jabba the brother. He was this and had serious emotional problems where he was just I'm trying to be productive with my life, so I've started doing chainsaw art. And that was, I don't know what the hell happened to him. He seemed so cool and with it at one moment. And I know there's a certain amount of dramatization for the reality show, but genuinely seems like he went from being the sort of okay together dude to being several sandwiches short of the proverbial picnic. Anyone want to postulate what might have happened?
I mean, I can't imagine being put in that situation with all those women, and they're always beating up on him, it seems like. And it's got to weigh on you emotionally at some point. He has, from what I would read in the news, his man card was just taken by mama, and he was not allowed to just be who he needed to be. And I think that would weigh on anybody after a while.
And they made him put sunscreen on his face.
They tortured him with sunscreen.
I think you have a point there. Emasculating mother. And forced into being a professionally good-looking person. Hey, go to this modeling agency. No, I want to remove myself from the circus. I'm going to get fat. I think that's what happened.
iHeartRadio puts the spotlight on Jim Morrison.
We have constructed pyramids in honor of our escaping. This is the land where the pharaoh died.
James Douglas Morrison was born on December 8, 1943, in Melbourne, Florida. His father was a rear admiral in the U.S. Navy, a strict authoritarian. Morrison's father was probably a major source of the outlandish rebellion that his son later acted out on stage. Morrison moved to the West Coast to study film and theater at UCLA in 1964. He became infatuated with the poetry of William Blake and the writings of philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, and he gradually drifted away from school to work on his poetry and experiment with drugs, particularly LSD.
Time to live in the scattered sun.
In 1965, Morrison so greatly impressed film school classmate and local blues band keyboardist Ray Manzarek with his early attempts at lyric writing that the two decided to form a band. Robbie Krieger and John Densmore were soon recruited from the Psychedelic Rangers. The name was Morrison's idea, taken from Aldous Huxley's book, The Doors of Perception, and the Doors were born.
Bring on through to the other side. Bring on through to the other side.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Doors coming up.
Hi, I'm Adrian Grenier out in the Pacific Ocean swimming with bluefin tuna. Bluefin tuna are one of the fastest fish in the ocean, but even they can't escape our appetites. Sure, we like the way they taste, but we're eating them to the brink of extinction, and we don't want to lose them. They're the biggest, baddest fish in the ocean, up to 15 feet long, 2,000 pounds, and they can accelerate faster than a race car. Help save bluefin before we eat them all up and they're gone for good. Go to oceana.org. That's OCEANA.org.
Delivering fascinating subjects, interesting talk, and boobs and fart jokes. AD on iHeartRadio.
Yeah, oh, let's go. Talking that mess, better act like you know. Oh, let's go tonight. Walk away, punk, yeah, bitch. That's right, I know this. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. So walk away, yeah, yeah. You've been talking
So, during the break, the conversation about Kris Jenner continued, and you were saying what now? Something about the hormone levels perhaps being a little off. One of you?
Yeah. I was saying that I think Kris has a lot of testosterone. She should go do the transition, I think. Yeah. She might have done it already. We just don't know about it.
Very, very strong jaw.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of hot, actually. I'm feeling attracted to her at times.
Looks like she could take a punch.
Yes, definitely. She punches a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And who was saying? Somebody was saying something about the fact that her ex-husband is now a woman and so much hotter than her.
Yes, that was Marie.
Oh yeah, Caitlyn is gorgeous, and obviously, I'm very happy for her that she finally did what she wanted to do and is living her life away from just everything you saw about Kris Jenner. When she was married to Bruce, she just always seemed to emasculate him.
Yeah, he wasn't happy.
And he wasn't happy
at all.
And obviously he was fighting these other things, but now that Caitlyn is about to be, or is who she really is, I love it. And I'm so glad she has that. She's free.
Yes.
But it just was gross. But I don't like women anyway. I don't like women who believe they need to take their man card anyway. I believe men should be men and women should be women.
Amen. Yeah.
And so that bothers me anyway. I don't like when women treat men that way.
No, it's not nice.
No.
Well, we want to be treated, like a guy.
No,
I don't like when. Yeah, I don't like. I like a man to be a gentleman, to pay for my dinner, and to bring me flowers.
Yes,
you know?
and on the other regard, I will lift him up as on that pedestal, like you are the man.
Exactly, the king. Treat
you're
me
the
like
king.
A queen.
Yeah,
I treat you like a king.
Exactly.
That's pretty much the exchange.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice. The one thing that I got puzzled about a little bit is just, so Caitlyn, formerly Bruce Jenner, suffered entire lifetime with this sense of gender dysphoria, this idea that you're in the wrong body, that you were born the wrong sex, that you should have been a woman instead of man, or instead of a man, and vice versa. It makes me wonder, if you've gone through your entire life with that feeling, what leads to your choice in wives or partners? Like, if you are the type of guy that feels like really we would have been better off being born a girl, and you choose to be with someone like Kris Jenner, what does that say? Like, I mean, just because the relationship that you guys described just now, or you girls described just now, rather, is one that I suppose is kind of old school and traditional, like, and one that, quite frankly, I sort of believe in. I believe that you should hold doors. I believe you should be polite. I think that you should get your girl flowers. I think you should pay for dinner. I think all these things, like if you're an adult, then yeah, absolutely, you should do all of these things. And there is give and take in relationships, and everybody has their own area of expertise. And the places where you're not so hot, hopefully you find someone that manages to fill in some of the larger gaps, so to speak. Hey, that's another tenet to a good relationship, filling in the gaps, so to speak. But like, if you are, if people are kind of sort of like in a broad sense hardwired to sort of be in that type of relationship where there are traditional male and female roles, then what does it say about someone? What does it say about someone's choice in wife that they're like, I've always felt like a woman, so I'm going to marry this chick? Like, how does that, like, do you think it speaks to the type of person that not even Kris Jenner, but someone in a similar relationship is?
Absolutely. I don't think there's like 100% female, 100% male. I think we're all a little gay. Like, I think I'm like 10% gay, maybe. You know what I mean? Because I do look at women like, oh, she's hot, I mean, we're all a little gay. We're all a mix of femininity and masculinity. It's very attractive to see a man that has a little bit of a feminine quality. That doesn't mean I like I want to be with a woman, but I want to be with a man who's masculine, but also has
That
sensitivity, that softness that will make me feel, like much better about myself. Not just not hey, what's up? I'm gonna kick your ass.
Well,
No, that's not cute.
What was it yesterday, AD? On your show, we were talking about guns. And I was saying, I married a man's man, but you won't see him all you hunting an animal. Like he sees an animal, he's like, doggy! And he's cuddling it. And, he's like, oh, you're my doggy. You're my dog. That kind of thing. So, and it's any dog. He walks up to, I'm like, honey, remember, you have to ask people if you can pet their dog. Like he turns into I
love it.
I love this baby. He turns into this. He's just this soft, amazing, gentle human. But on the other hand, the guy's building everything under the sun. He's a handyman, and he gets dirty, and he's an athlete, and he's a man's man. So he's got that great balance. But I like that balance about him. I like that he's not at the shooting range. Oh, good,
Yeah.
I'm that person.
That's the key word. It's balance, right?
I'm that person. I'm from Louisiana. I was on the shooting ranges. I don't need him to be.
Exactly. It's about balance, and it's whatever works for you. Some women, I'm sure, like that macho, who kicks their butt. But I think everybody's kind of like in the middle. I think I'm very feminine, and I feel very much like a woman. But I do martial arts, for example. And does that make me masculine? No. It's just a part of me that I have that I acknowledge. It might be a little bit the testosterone side of me. I don't know. But I acknowledge it. I do it. And that doesn't make me less of a woman. So
yeah,
that's how I feel about that.
Gender roles are a really, really interesting thing. Like, I remember... the idea of somebody switching genders was never that big a deal to me, because there's this we talked about it on the show. There was this there's this musician, this woman, Wendy Carlos, and she was like one of the pioneers of synthesizer music. And my mom was a classical musician, so she brought me up on all these really kind of cool albums. And she was like, hey, check this out. This is called Switched on Bach, and it's a bunch of Bach music played on the very first ever synthesizer. And it's this incredible sounding record, and it was done by a woman called Wendy Carlos. And my mom was like, something interesting about Wendy Carlos, whose album you're listening to? And I think I was like 5 or something. I was like, no, what? And he's like, well, she used to be Wendy Carlos, but decided she felt more like a woman than a man, so she had an operation to change her into a woman. I was like, oh, that's cool. Well, I like the music, and it was kind of like no big deal. It was floated out there, but it's interesting. Gender roles are really, really interesting, and I think if you get a child's perspective a lot on them a lot of the time, I think there's this sort of idea that a child isn't equipped to deal with this, and they should be shielded from this and all this stuff. And I remember when I was in the 3rd grade, before I was really interested in girls, before I really kind of knew what was up, before I even knew what gay was, I remember there was this kid in the 3rd grade, and I won't, he might listen to the show now, so I'm not going to back him under the bus. I don't know how comfortable he is at this stage in the game, but I was like, that guy's, well, he's a boy, but he kind of acts a little bit more like a girl. And I didn't know what it was, but I just knew it wasn't me. I've always had impeccable gaydar, just because I can see other dudes and be like, there's something about them that's just not like me. And lo and behold, this kid basically finished up high school, and a year later was living with his boyfriend, and I think is now happily married, and is a color analyst in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, where he tells people what colors will bring out their best side. And
wow, cool.
I
don't think people give... I don't think people give children enough credit on how intelligent they really are.
Thank you. Yes.
And they try to shield them when they should be just being open and honest, and they find that their children are like, all right, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think there's probably a key phase in child development, and maybe you can keep us posted with this, Marie, with your kid as she makes her way in the world, as Lily grows up. But I think there's a moment in a child's life where they're developed enough to be cognitive to where they can logically put things together, but then the weight of the world, they haven't been conditioned to believe certain things. And I'm not out there. I'm one of the world's biggest skeptics of all things, ghosts, religions, all of the above, any sort of hocus pocus whatsoever. I'm not necessarily a believer in any of it. I would love to be proven wrong. I'd love to think that there's more to life after you kick the bucket, but so far, I think it's still wide open on that one. But I do know that a lot of people have said their kids can do predictive things like tell them who's going to be on the phone, pre caller ID. Like children can predict things, and a lot of parents report children at a certain age, and I don't know what it is. I think it's like 3 to 5 or something, having a certain amount of what could be interpreted as psychic ability because their mind is open. They don't know what to believe. They just kind of take life as it comes, and they're open to the suggestions that their mind puts in it, as opposed to being beaten down by years of logic and conditioning and societal needs and things of that nature. And I think there is a window of opportunity where a kid has developed enough to be able to logically put things together, but where they haven't had everything squashed down by whatever the hell in society it is that squashes these things down. It's very, very interesting. And I think the kids can probably come forward with the most enlightened views ever on things like gender dysphoria, sex changes, and things of that nature. It's an interesting one. Maybe we should refer when Lily starts speaking. Maybe we should have her on the show and refer to her as to what's right and what's wrong and what's
Lily is going to grow. I have family members who are gay, and I have, Lily's going to grow up in households of 2 fathers, households of 2 uncles, households of 2, she's going to grow up that way. It's just, that's who our family is, and it's going to be normal to her. And I plan on, but I think even if it wasn't normal in a thing in my family, it would still be normal to her. I believe that she's got to be open to everyone is different. Everyone has different families.
Well, she's 8 months old and already in school and is developing at a rapid rate. Maybe we shouldn't have her on the show. Yes. I would love to answer your questions on gender dysphoria, but first I must correct you for ending a sentence with a parenthetical phrase.
She's total Stewie from Family Guy already. She's plotting against mommy and daddy.
All right, one last piece of news before we bail on today. This has gone entirely too quickly. We should do this again soon.
All right, the story of Metallica is being told in a new comic book.
Yeah.
You want to hear my impersonation of James Hetfield, lead singer of Metallica, giving someone directions to his house?
Yes, please.
Don't all answer at once. This is my impersonation of James Hetfield from Metallica giving people directions to his house. Take a ride at the light. See? Yep, new Metallica comic book. The tale of a heavy metal band that becomes superheroes fighting evil villains who illegally download their music. All right, one more piece of news.
All right, great. New England's Patriot fans are still livid about Tom Brady's suspension being upheld.
Yep. His deflated balls got him into all sorts of trouble. In fact, I think they believe, I believe they just voted Roger Goodell over lion killer Walter Palmer as the worst human being in the world. Too bad, so sad. I'm sorry, Tom Brady. Better luck next time. Oh, wait, you're married to a supermodel and make literally gazillions of dollars a year. Didn't know gazillions existed until you came along and made it, but you do. Somehow I think you'll be just fine. Thank you so much, Grace Fraga and Marie Lanza and super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser, for making this such an awesome week. We'll be back next week. We'll do it all over again. Yay! Happy weekend!
Times you feel like it's cool to turn the other cheek and give people the benefit of the doubt even when they don't deserve it. And sometimes you feel good about yourself for being a better person and doing that. Well, this is not one of those times. I don't think you realize what's on my mind. I've been too nice for way too long. I think I want you to know just what is going on. So bite me, you're a...
Wow.
Okay, now we can talk to him.
Hello.